electronically open. Order. Alors, statements by members. Déclaration de député. Honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, recently some parties have suddenly discovered an interest in defending Quebec's interests, but when it's time to act in Parliament, forget about it. Quebec has some of the most strictest environmental laws, and that is why Quebec is demanding that our laws continue to apply when Ottawa intervenes. That is what I proposed yesterday in committee. Well, all the parties voted against, because when it's actually time to choose between Quebec's interests and Canada's interests, the three Federalist parties always choose Canada, and too bad for Quebec. All the parties voted against the measures that would have protected Quebec if Energy East is revived. They also voted against measures that would protect British Columbia against the imposition of Trans Mountain. In fact, there is going to be a demonstration against Trans Mountain on Sunday in Montreal, and I would invite you all to join me and tell our elected members that it's up to Quebec and the provinces to decide what happens on their land.
Honorable député de Montarville.
The Honourable Member for Montarville. Mr. Speaker, children are the future. The organization Curling for Kids was founded in 1999 by Mr. Sears, who wanted to give back funds to the hospital that had saved the life of his daughter. 20 years have gone by since that, and today there are so many clubs throughout Quebec organizing events in order to bring together community and collect funds for children. Mr. Speaker, it is with great pride that I rise today in the House to announce that the Montbruno Curling Club collected $20,000 during a Curling for Kids event on the 7th of April. Throughout Quebec, more than $400,000 were raised in 2018 and given to the Sainte-Justine Hospital Foundation and to the Montreal Children's Hospital. I would therefore like to take this moment to thank them from the bottom of my heart and to thank all partners throughout Quebec, like Montbruno Curling, for their commitment to children.
For Yorkton Melville.
Mr. Speaker, it's my honour to rise in the House today to praise and bring attention in this place to the upcoming Yorkton Film Festival. The Yorkton Film Festival is the longest-running film festival in North America. It was established in 1947, and this will be their 71st year of celebrating short films. In 1956, they instituted the Golden Sheaf Awards. Filmmakers originating from Netherlands, India, Sweden, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, Norway, France, and the United States all competed for our Canadian prize. It surprises many that Yorkton, a small city of 16,000 plus people in the heart of Saskatchewan, has managed to continually pull off one of the most prominent film festivals in the world with class and perfection. But it's not a surprise to me. And I'm honored to be presenting the Golden Sheaf Telefilm Award at the Yorkton Film Festival Red Carpet Dinner this coming Saturday evening.
Honourable Member for Mississauga-Streetsville.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to pay special recognition to an incredible community organization. The Streetsville Lions Club is a community-based group of volunteers chartered by the International Association of Lions Clubs. Founded in 1952, Lions meet the needs of local communities and the world every day because they share a core belief: to serve their community. The club organizes and assists with implementing a number of events in the Streetsville community. On May 10th, the club sponsored a dinner event to show their appreciation for their volunteers. I was disappointed that I could not share in the celebrations. So, Mr. Speaker, please allow me to use my time here in the House to express my gratitude and support for the Streetsville Lions Club, and to congratulate and thank the wonderful people who volunteer to make our community better every single day. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver-Kingsway.
This year marks the 30th anniversary of the Karabakh Movement, a monumental event for the global Armenian community. In 1991, the people of Artsakh declared independence from the Soviet Union and their aspiration for a Nagorno-Karabakh republic. The region's residents, primarily ethnically Armenian, then held a referendum in which 82% of all voters participated and 99% voted for independence. Unfortunately, war then broke out between Azerbaijan and Armenia. Despite a 1994 ceasefire, long-term peace and a durable political solution have been absent, and since 2016, innocent lives are lost on an almost daily basis. This House must affirm our commitment to the protection and human rights of civilians and call on all parties to strictly adhere to the terms of the ceasefire. More fundamentally, we call on the Canadian government to work for a just solution to the conflict, one that conforms with international law and is built on the inalienable right to self-determination of the people of Nagorno-Karabakh.
The Honourable Member for Scarborough-Agincourt.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, the First Republic of Armenia was founded 100 years ago.
On May 28, 1918, provided hope to thousands of refugees and a home to the Armenian people in the wake of the Armenian genocide. It also represented, for the first time since 1375, that the Armenian people could lay claim to a country of their own. Only 2 years after its founding in 1918, Armenia was invaded by the Soviet Union, leaving its people, who had so recently achieved their freedom, once again without their own nation. With the collapse of the Soviet Union in September 1991, Armenia regained its independence and remains free to this day. This year, during the month of May, Canadians of Armenian background and communities around the world will celebrate this milestone and remember the sacrifices made by the Armenian people. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, this week I had the honor of speaking at an event hosted with the Munk School of Global Affairs in Toronto, highlighting the desperate plight of Crimean Tatars in Russian-occupied Ukraine. This event featured a presentation by Crimean Tatar leader Mustafa Zemilev, as well as a number of academics. I would like to salute the courageous advocacy of the Crimean Tatar community, as well as the Ukrainian community and Ukrainian government who have stood with them. The Ukrainian Embassy in Canada co-hosted this event. Ukraine provides a home to people from a range of different cultural backgrounds. The Kremlin, by contrast, imposes its brutal will on all those within its empire. Mr. Speaker, the ongoing abuse of Crimean Tatars is one of many under-discussed human rights issues, highlighting the brokenness of our international system. Powerful autocrats like Putin undertake human rights abuses themselves and defend abuses by smaller client states. There is no effective enforcement of international human rights. If anything, capacity for enforcement is declining. For the sake of Crimean Tatars, other Ukrainians in occupied areas, and all other victims around the world, we must face up to the brokenness of our international system and do more to fix it.
Hear, hear. Honourable Member for Cape Breton-Canso.
Mr. Speaker, as parliamentarians, we are unanimous in recognizing and respecting the hard work of our committed staff members, regardless of party affiliation. Long hours, tough files, complex issues being dealt with in an intense and public forum is a difficult day at the office for a Hill staffer. I rise today to recognize a friend and colleague who first arrived on Parliament Hill 20 years ago today. Bright-eyed and bushy-headed, Jamie Innes came from his native New Brunswick, heeding the call to public service. From the government side to the opposition side, back to the government side, Jamie's worked for MPs, he's been a trusted advisor to various ministers, and played a critical role in the House Leader's office back in the opposition days. His hard work, patience, and integrity has earned him the friendship and respect of his peers, and his sharp political instinct has yielded great equity in his advice. 20 years later, his hair's a little thinner, his skin's a little bit thicker, but he still has that passion for public service, and that remains constant. For 2 decades of service to this place, join me in congratulating our friend, Jamie Innes.
Hear, hear.
I don't know why he wants surplus hair anyway.
The Honourable Member for Dorval-Lachine-LaSalle. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to warmly welcome 25 students from the University of Michigan who will be spending the next month on the Hill. During their summer political science class, these students will have the opportunity to acquire experience and knowledge about our parliamentary operations by working in the Hill offices through meeting dignitaries, and by exploring and learning about life and culture in Canada. It is an honour and a pleasure to see so much young talent and so much enthusiasm for politics.
Getting the opportunity to learn more about Canadian politics and parliamentary affairs, the program also promotes a positive exchange between Canada and the United States. And I know that this chamber will show these students that politics can indeed be a positive thing. I wholeheartedly wish them the best of luck for their endeavours here in Ottawa and beyond. Thank you so much.
The honourable member for Saskatoon-Grasswood.
Mr. Speaker, as we approach the 13th annual Victims of Survivors of Crime Week, which gets underway this Sunday, we must acknowledge the struggles of families who still are waiting to get justice as a result of unacceptable delays in our judicial system. Dwayne Demkew of Alberta was murdered in May of 2015. However, his family lives in Saskatoon, is being forced to wait until 2019 for his accused murderer to stand trial. As of May 4th, there are still many judicial vacancies in Alberta's Court of Queen's Bench alone, and there are well over 50 judicial vacancies across this country. These vacancies do nothing but cause further hurt for victims of crime, such as the Demkew family. There is no excuse why this government should allow these vacancies to be left unfulfilled, and no excuse on why victims of crime should be denied justice.
The Honourable Member for Laval-les-Îles. Mr. Speaker, Michael Haddad.
Climate change champion.
Today he is here because he has come to Canada to walk 100 kilometers to the North Pole. He is paralyzed from the toes to the chest since the age of 6 years old, and he has been overcoming challenges for humanity so that he can make people aware of climate change. Why the North Pole? Well, we are all aware that this area is changing because there has been an increase in ice melt.
Are coordinating to introduce this scientific challenge endorsed by the United Nations to the world as making Michael walk the North Pole is exactly like putting a person to walk on the moon. Merci, Michael.
Thank you, Michael. You symbolize courage itself. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Don Valley West.
Mr. Speaker, last week I had the honour of hosting a consultation on young people, addictions and mental health at the Bellwood Health Centre in Don Valley West. This roundtable included 25 participants, including young people suffering from addiction, professionals, as well as community associations. Most adults who have mental health issues have said that the first symptoms actually appeared during their adolescence. However, only 1 young people out of 4 receives the care they need. Stigmatization continues to be a plague, and we must talk about it. I would like to thank all the participants at this round table. Together, we will continue to find innovative solutions to help our young people.
The honourable member for Medicine Hat, Cardston Warner.
Mr. Speaker, the City of Medicine Hat is able to provide affordable, stable, natural gas-generated electricity to residents and industry. In the past several months, the City has announced new investments worth hundreds of millions of dollars by companies coming to our city, in part because of the availability of reliable electricity. These 2 companies combined will have a daily electrical demand of up to 80 megawatts, will provide nearly 500 permanent jobs to our community, and help us grow and diversify our economy. Natural gas-generated electricity is a viable and clean source of energy. Natural gas will be there when the sun doesn't shine and the wind doesn't blow. The City of Medicine Hat has recognized the need to provide a favorable investment climate that will assure continued growth in natural gas-fired electricity. Lower energy costs has resulted in Medicine Hat growing its economy, creating jobs while reducing emissions, all without a new tax. I invite the Minister of Environment
to visit my city and see how we can move economy and environment forward without a carbon tax.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Guelph.
Mr. Speaker, it's every Canadian's responsibility to promote mental wellness in our communities. Je suis fier.
I am proud to tell this House that I recently held a roundtable on mental health here in Ottawa, as well as a town hall meeting on mental health in my Guelph riding.
These two events provided me a unique opportunity to consult with mental health experts, service providers, and most importantly, with my constituents. Canadians deeply care for each other's mental health, and together we can develop innovative and collaborative community-based programs to help those who are suffering. I'm confident there's a role for members in this House to make a positive difference for Canadians, leveraging unprecedented investment funds available to build healthy, compassionate, and resilient communities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, May 24th is International Women's Day for Disarmament, a day when women legislators jointly express our deep concern about the existential threats to humanity and the environment from climate change, nuclear weapons, and unresolved international conflicts, in particular those between nuclear-reliant nations. Tomorrow, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres will call on governments, parliaments, and civil society to take action to end the threat of nuclear war. I've joined other women parliamentarians in expressing support for the UN General Assembly decision for a high-level conference on disarmament to advance effective measures to build a framework for a nuclear weapon-free world. As women representatives, we're proud of our home countries and our national identities, but we also recognize a common humanity. We recognize the need to collaborate in building a peaceful, secure, sustainable, just world. I invite my fellow Canadian women legislators to join me in supporting this initiative for peace.
The honourable member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Mr. Speaker, time and again this government has turned its back on victims, from opposing mandatory sentences to failing to appoint a victims ombudsman after 6 months. Now this government is watering down sentences with Bill C-75. Bill C-75 makes serious indictable offences prosecutable by way of summary conviction. As a result, serious offences including participating in a terrorist organization, kidnapping a minor, and impaired driving causing bodily harm can be punishable with a mere fine. There can be no justice for victims when terrorists, kidnappers, and impaired drivers are able to walk away scot-free. Bill C-75 is an absolute travesty. Victims of crime deserve better than this government.
The honourable member for King Vaughan.
Mr. Speaker, today marks the launch of Representatives Against Hunger, a Food Banks Canada initiative in which elected representatives are asked to raise awareness about hunger in their communities. Every day, food banks across the country work hard to raise food and funds necessary to assist over 860,000 people. There are 3 exceptional food banks in King Township and Vaughan which provide crucial, compassionate service and bring our neighbourhoods together to help fight local hunger. They are King Township Food Bank, run by Carol-Ann Trabert, Humanity First Food Bank in Concord, run by Dr. Aslam Dowd, and the Vaughan Food Bank, run by Peter Wixon. Behind these individuals are teams of dedicated volunteers and donors, working tirelessly to support the less fortunate in our communities. I encourage my colleagues to develop strong relationships with their local food banks, even fast for a day to experience what it's like not to have enough to eat. I want you to take this important conversation online using the hashtag #RepsAgainstHunger. My hope and the hope of Food Banks Canada is that hunger in this country will be eliminated, and one day will no longer...
Questions orales, oral questions. The honourable leader of the opposition.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Prime Minister affirmed that he would consider amendments to his bill. This would allow the Liberal government to campaign using taxpayers' money and would allow for American interference in our elections. Will he tell Elections Canada to implement this legislative measure, not to implement it until certain amendments are adopted? Mr. Speaker, we're very proud that many of the recommendations that we put forward to Election Canada were recommendations made by Elections Canada, especially after the Conservative government really wrecked our electoral system and made it more difficult for Canadians to vote, and made it easier to use money to convince Canadians to vote for them. Happily, that didn't work, and we are improving our system.
Inform the opposition parties of his intention to appoint Saskatchewan's Michael Boda as Canada's new Chief Electoral Officer. But just recently, the Prime Minister changed his mind with absolutely no explanation. Can the Prime Minister please explain exactly why he rescinded Michael Boda's appointment?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, after a rigorous, open, merit-based process, we are happy to have chosen Stéphane Perrault as the most qualified candidate for the position of Chief Electoral Officer. With over 20 years serving in government, he has extensive knowledge and understanding of the Canada Elections Act and the Canadian parliamentary system. We have every confidence that under his continued leadership, Elections Canada will be more than ready for the 2019 federal election. We have submitted an excellent candidate to this House and hope that all members confirm his appointment.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister refused to answer this question yesterday, so I'll try again today. One fact in the recent violent confrontations along the Israel-Gaza border is undeniable. The riots that led to those tragic deaths were deliberately orchestrated by the terrorist group Hamas. Unfortunately, the Prime Minister's statement last week ignored Hamas's involvement and instead blamed Israel, the most democratic, pluralistic nation in the region. Will the Prime Minister apologize for his poorly worded statement and finally join me in condemning Hamas for the role they played and explain his silence yesterday?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, last week I spoke directly with Prime Minister Netanyahu and explained to him that regardless of which country was involved, any time a foreign military sniper shoots a Canadian citizen, a Canadian civilian, we will have questions about that. We will stand up and express how concerned we are and ask to know exactly what happened. A Canadian doctor was shot by an Israeli sniper. This is something that we have to actually push back on and ask how that happened.
The Honourable Leader. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
How about pushing back on the fact that this entire incident was orchestrated by a terrorist group, Hamas? This is shameful, Mr. Speaker. Here we are a week later, after the world has seen Hamas putting innocent civilians in harm's way just to achieve this very type of tragic incident. And this Prime Minister continues to place the blame unilaterally on Israel, a country that goes out of its way to minimize civilian casualties. Will the Prime Minister finally do what the entire international community has already done, condemn Hamas and recognize its role in this tragic event?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we have on this side of the House repeatedly condemned the violence, including the incitement to violence by Hamas. But I will express once again that I am proud that Canada is one of those countries in which support for Israel and friendship with Israel goes beyond partisan lines. And our government has continued to be a friend to Israel. There is, in fact, only one issue on which we deeply disagree with the Conservatives in regards to Israel, is we don't think it should be a partisan domestic issue.
Order. Yesterday, I asked a member for St. Albert Edmonton not to be yelling when someone else has the floor. I ask him again not to do that. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, Canada used to have one voice when it spoke to the issue in the region until this Prime Minister changed the government's position when it comes to Israel. This Prime Minister has politicized this issue by failing to condemn Hamas until a week later, by placing the blame unilaterally on Israel and ignoring the fact that Hamas put those innocent civilians in harm's way deliberately. Why did the Prime Minister take so long to acknowledge the role that a terrorist organization had in this world? Why is he politicizing our relationship with Israel?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, how quickly they forget. In the 2015 election campaign, I had protesters outside the home of a Jewish leader in Toronto because he had dared support the Liberal Party in our election. That leaders within the Jewish community actually stepped forward and supported a different party than theirs. The politicization of the Israeli question has been done by them, and it is shameful and unhelpful to the kind of pluralistic democracy we are. We will always be a friend to Israel on this side.
The honourable member for Rimouski-Nejet. The honourable member for Rimouski-Nejet, Témiscouata, Basque. Mr. Speaker, the government's 2015 platform, and I quote, "We will respect our commitment made to the G7 and we will gradually move away from subsidies to fossil fuels." They not only have no plan for this, but they're giving a blank check to Kinder Morgan. Will they finally respect their promise and not give this subsidy to gas and oil? Mr. Speaker, together with our G20 partners, we committed to gradually get away from fossil fuels between now and 2025, and we're well on the way to doing so. Canada can develop its resources while keeping to our plan, and that is why we are for the Trans Mountain Expansion Plan, which would create thousands of jobs, and we are making considerable investments in our plan to protect our oceans and our country, and that to the tune of billions of dollars. The honourable member. These are just words, Mr. Speaker. They have no intention, no plan to deal with oil and gas. Now, how much is it going to cost to deal with Kinder Morgan? They can't answer because they don't want to negotiate publicly. When will they make public the figure? What will it be? 500 million, a billion, 5 billion? What is the ceiling for this subsidy to Kinder Morgan? The Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we're a government that respects the fact that we want to make sure we have economic growth and that we protect the environment. With respect to Kinder Morgan, we have strengthened measures, we have additional measures for Kinder Morgan to get the approval. It's to get. People have to understand that a government can deliver on its commitments. And that's why we are working with the company, with stakeholders across the country to make sure that this project goes forward because it's in the interest of the nation.
Canada's efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions are in shambles. The government committed to abolish fossil fuel subsidies by 2025, but the Auditor General concluded that the government had no intentions to do so. The betrayal does not end there. What's worse, the Liberals now want to bail out a Texas-based oil company. Canadians do not want to give a handout to a U.S. big oil company. So why are the Liberals giving a blank check to Kinder Morgan?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, together with our G20 partners, we've committed to phase out inefficient fossil fuel subsidies by the year 2025. We are on track to meet this target. And unfortunately, the NDP continue to say that we haven't done anything, but in Budget 2016, we announced the expiration of the tax write-offs on capital investments in LNG facilities. In Budget 2017, we announced the elimination of certain tax credits for exploration expenses in the oil and gas sector in certain cases. Mr. Speaker, we are committed to growing the economy and protecting the environment at the same time. The NDP and the Conservatives still think there's a choice to be made. We know they go to...
The honourable member for Vancouver East.
Not according to the Auditor General, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister promised to abolish fossil fuel subsidies, and that was made with other G7 countries. And he made this commitment over and over again. And as we approach the next G7 summit, the world will be watching, and the lack of Canadian leadership will be glaring. Rather than paying off a Texas-based oil company and their fat cat shareholders, will the government end fossil fuel subsidies and invest in a transition for energy workers toward a future in sustainable energy?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the lack of concern by the NDP for the hard-working Albertans in our oil and gas sector is disheartening. As I said to them when I was out there, we recognize that the Trans Mountain expansion is in the national interest, that ensuring that we continue to get good prices for our resources while we move forward towards a lower carbon economy is exactly what all Canadians expect. We are pleased to have found that project in the national interest. We will get that project built despite the naysaying by the NDP.
Honourable member for Carleton.
The Finance Department has calculated the cost of the federally imposed carbon tax on the average Canadian family. I obtained the documents. It's just that all the numbers are blacked out. Now, many are calling it a cover-up. A carbon tax cover-up, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister is here today. He could uncensor those documents and end this carbon tax cover-up and tell Canadians what this tax will cost them.
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, over the past couple of years, we've done two things that are completely foreign to the Conservative Party. One of them is actually take real action on reducing our carbon emissions. The second is to work collaboratively with the provinces instead of setting them up as enemies. What we're doing is we're working with the provinces so they can establish their plans to reduce their carbon emissions, which include putting a price on carbon pollution. And they will determine how they will be returning the money collected from that price on pollution to their citizens. So speculation about what it costs.
The honourable member for Carleton.
Well, we wouldn't have to speculate if the Prime Minister would just uncensor the documents that would tell us. Now, his plan, he says, don't worry. He's going to raise taxes on working-class consumers, but he'll give the money back to provincial politicians to spend. This is his version of trickle-down economics. He takes money from the people who earn it, gives it to politicians, and expects us to believe that a few drops will trickle down to the people who earned it in the first place. Why doesn't he uncover the cost, tell the truth, and indicate how much this tax will cost the average family?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what the Conservatives simply don't understand is that growing the economy for the future requires us to also be protecting future generations. That means being smart about reducing the amount of carbon emissions, reducing the pollution we're putting in. By putting a price on pollution, by encouraging better choices by industry, by citizens, we know that we are creating a sustainable future for everyone. That's why for 10 years they made no choices, no leadership on the environment, and couldn't build a strong economy.
I've heard quite a bit from the honourable member for Selkirk, Interlake East, and the honourable member for Cypress Hills Grasslands today, but they haven't had the floor, so we shouldn't hear from them in that case, as they understand, I'm sure. The honourable member for Carleton has the floor.
Well, he's used his better choices line again. Nothing could better indicate how much he is out of touch. This millionaire Prime Minister told British Columbians, who are paying $1.60 a litre for gas, that they just need to make better choices if they want to stop overpaying to get from A to B. But furthermore, the Prime Minister wants to charge the GST on top of the carbon tax. He'll raise $250 million in BC and Alberta alone. How much money will his government take from taxpayers in this tax on the tax?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite likes to talk about taxes, but you notice he doesn't explain why he voted against raising taxes on the wealthiest 1% and lowering them on the middle class. That's the first thing we did. And then he wanted to continue to send child benefit checks to millionaire families instead of actually giving more money to the families who need it. Our Canada Child Benefit gives more money to 9 out of 10 Canadian families and is lifting hundreds of thousands of kids across this country out of poverty. Those are the choices that we've made, and we're going to continue to make them despite there being...
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister promised before the last election that he, because he's a millionaire, would stop taking child care benefits. And now he is taking taxpayer-funded nanny services for his kids while making everybody else pay for their child care out of their own pockets. On the issue of taxes, the Fraser Institute has calculated that 80% of middle-class taxpayers are paying more since this Prime Minister took office. $800 more. How much will those same families have to pay in higher carbon tax?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
In French, Mr. Speaker, we say le naturel revient au galop. As soon as they get in a place they don't like, they start attacking personally, they start slamming someone and throwing mud. The fact is, Mr. Speaker, we lowered taxes for the middle class, raised them on the wealthiest 1%. And the study that they're talking about actually doesn't even count the Canada Child Benefit. What I think Canadians would want to hear is, will they then change back the Canada Child Benefit to benefit millionaires and take money out of the pockets of the poorest in Canada? Because that's what they want.
The Honourable Member
De Beauport,
for Beauport, Côte-Beaupré et d'Orléans-Charlevoix. The G7 summit is going to be taking place in my riding in Malbaie next June. And the public have questions and want answers about the significant costs. For some weeks now, major transformations have altered the region's magnificent surroundings and have necessitated major expenditures. We're 3 weeks from the G7. Can the Prime Minister tell us what the G7 will cost us? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, first of all, let me say that I am extremely proud to be able to invite world leaders to the magnificent Charlevoix region. I know that the people there are proud to welcome the world, to show people how beautiful it is. I will be going this week. This afternoon, I'll be going to Charlevoix to meet with the mayors and other people there to answer their questions, as we've been doing for several months, to talk about how this will be a great success for them, for our country, and for the world. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint-Laurent. Yes, we all hope that this will be a great success. But there may be demonstrations in Quebec City. Now, sometimes when there are demonstrations, things go sideways. Now, last week, the Minister of Family was not able to say whether there would be compensation. The Mayor of Quebec said, I want business people to be reassured and that if there is damage, they will be indemnified. If, and unfortunately, there is violence, how will Canada reimburse the victims? Mr. Speaker, we're working with the Mayor of Quebec City and all officials responsible. We know how important it is for citizens to be able to express themselves, but we want to ensure that this is done respecting law and order. This is why we're working with local police, the Sûreté du Québec, so that citizens, business people, everyone can feel safe during this extraordinary meeting of the G7 that will take place in Charlevoix. The Honourable Member for Sherbrooke. Mr. Speaker, the government has decided to tax cannabis, medical cannabis, in C-74. Canadians who have a prescription already have to spend hundreds, even thousands of dollars to meet their needs. The Liberals had a chance to rectify things in committee, but they dismissed NDP amendments. How can the Minister of Finance explain that the 260,000 patients in Canada who use cannabis for medical reasons will have to pay this extra bill? The Honourable Minister, the Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we're legalizing cannabis to better protect our young people and our committees and to protect them from the black market. We know that at the present time, many users, many recreational users, sometimes use medical prescriptions to get their recreational cannabis. We want things to be regulated properly, and we will work with people in the medical field to make sure that medical cannabis
His way.
Many Canadians rely on medical cannabis as a key part of their healthcare treatment. However, unlike prescription drugs, patients have to pay sales tax on medical cannabis, and it's not eligible for reimbursement under most health insurance plans. Now, the Liberals are imposing an additional excise tax that will further impair access to the medicine they need. Mr. Speaker, this is unfair to patients, and it's damaging to public health. Will the Liberals do the right thing and withdraw this ill-advised tax on medicine?
Very good.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are legalizing regulating cannabis sales because we know we need to better protect our kids and protect our communities from the impact of organized crime. That's why we're doing this. We recognize that under the current prohibition, the medical marijuana system actually purveys an awful lot of recreational cannabis to users. This situation will shift significantly once we have a legalized regime in place, and we are going to be working with the medical marijuana community to ensure that those who use marijuana as medications don't suffer undue extra penalties. That is something we've committed to. We're going to work responsibly towards that.
Honourable Member for Edmonton Riverbend.
In 8 days, Mr. Speaker, in 8 days, Kinder Morgan will be making a decision on the Trans Mountain Expansion project. So far, this Prime Minister's only solution is to make taxpayers pay for the project that was privately funded. For 2.5 years, the Prime Minister has completely failed to defend Canadian resources. Will he finally show some leadership and tell Canadians what his plan is for the next 8 days?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our plan is to get that pipeline built because it's in the national interest, because it's part of both growing the economy and protecting the environment together. As the members know, we are working right now in financial discussions with the proponent. We're ensuring that we're able to move forward in a responsible way. That's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to do what's in the national interest. The national interest is to build that pipeline so we can get our resources responsibly and sustainably to new markets across the Pacific.
Député de Richmond-Arthabasca.
The Honourable Member for Richmond-Arthabasca. Mr. Speaker, we are witnessing a constitutional crisis. And who's paying for this failure? Canadian families, people working in the natural resource sector. The PM's inability to manage the Trans Mountain situation is making provincial governments turn to the courts. The Prime Minister has completely failed, has not shown leadership on this file. What does he intend to do to get this underway again? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we're still hearing from these Conservatives, but under Stephen Harper, they did what they could they talked a good game about supporting Alberta, but they did nothing. They weren't able to deliver because They didn't understand that we have to grow the economy while protecting the environment. They couldn't protect the environment and they couldn't build the economy. What we are going to do is completely something else.
There's empty words, and there are only 8 days left until the deadline for the Trans Mountain expansion. The Prime Minister caused this crisis. He's damaging confidence in Canada. The President of HoC says, quote, the delay of those projects is almost as good as a cancellation. The Prime Minister has already killed 4 major energy projects in Canada worth $84 billion, and investment is leaving Canada at historic rates. What is the Prime Minister actually doing to stop energy investment from leaving Canada, along with the hundreds of thousands of jobs that go with it?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of failure by Stephen Harper to get even 1 kilometre of new pipeline to new markets built, we are getting it done. We have approved the Kinder Morgan TMX pipeline expansion under a strengthened process that brings in Indigenous communities, that respects science, that gets the social license that so completely evaded the previous government because Canadians didn't trust them. Canadians didn't believe that they had the best interests of Canada and Canadians at heart. What that means is we're growing the economy, we're protecting the environment.
The honourable member for Lakeland.
Look, Mr. Speaker, last month the Prime Minister and the Ministers of Finance and Natural Resources all promised a law to provide certainty for Trans Mountain. But there's still no law and there's still no plan. The Prime Minister's failure harms Canada's reputation in the world and risks future energy development. The CEO of Goodread Investment Council says, quote, this is going to make other companies, other projects, all pause and say, what if? We need strong political leadership here, and I don't think we're getting it. So can the Prime Minister answer? Where is the legislation he promised Canadians?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if one actually listens to the Conservative members, one realizes that they are actually hinging an awful lot of their political survival on us not getting the pipeline built. We are going to get that pipeline built, and I look forward to seeing what the Conservatives have to say once construction season starts, once shovels are in the ground, once we deliver on this pipeline to new markets that they were unable to do. Would they be happy then, or will they be miserable that it was this government that got it done for Alberta?
The honourable member.
I'd ask the member for Chilliwack Hope and others to come to order and not to be speaking when someone else has the floor or calling out, as much as I like the voice of the member for Chilliwack Hope.
The honourable member for. Order.
The
honourable member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, the Liberals said that they were open to working with opposition parties, and today they're threatening to limit debate on the election reform bill. They're doing exactly what Stephen Harper did in 2014. Any change? No. If they want to get the bill adopted by the summer, there are other potential solutions. Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister and the Liberal Party commit to working with us to find a solution and not limit debate on the elections reform? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we are eager to debate this bill at committee. We know that there are many witnesses across the country, members who are going to want to sit down and work at committee in order to make suggestions, improve the bill. So I think that this is an important part of the work. We're very eager for the bill to go to committee precisely so that the NDP and the Conservative Party and others be able to contribute their perspectives to the bill. So that's why we're very happy to send it soon to committee so that the work can be done.
For Skeena Bulkley Valley.
No, that's not true. The Prime Minister had a deadline to fix the damage done by the previous Conservative government to our election laws. And for 18 months they did nothing. And now they're panicking and actually threatening to shut down debate in Parliament just hours after it started. New Democrats have made a proposal to properly study the bill, get out on the road to talk to Canadians, and still allow the passage of this bill to get Elections Canada doing their job for us. So let's find out which path this Prime Minister is going to choose. Is he willing to work with us, or is he going to follow the dangerous one set by Stephen Harper?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this is in fact the fourth day of debate on the elections bill, and we are looking forward to sending it to committee so that the member opposite and all members are able to weigh in and make their concrete recommendations to improve this piece of legislation. Yes, we know that Elections Canada rules need to be improved after the Conservatives broke them. That's why we look forward to having robust discussions at committee so the work can actually get done and delivered in time for Canadians in the next election.
The Honourable Member for Alfred Pellant. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No community should ever have to go through what Lake Megantic did on July 6, 2013. All Canadians remember the 47 people who perished in the tragedy, and we stand with those whose lives forever changed. On May 11th, the Right Honourable Prime Minister went to Lake Megantic to make an important announcement. Could he share that with us here? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I'd like to thank the member for Alfred Pellant for his question. It's one that is important for all Quebecers and Canadians. For 5 years, the people of Lake Megantic have been working hard to reestablish their community, their city, and to build a better future. On May 11th, with the Minister of Finance, I announced that we had reached an agreement in principle with the Quebec government with a view to jointly funding the bypass route for the railway. We know that some injuries will never be healed, but we hope that this will mark a new departure for the people of Lac Megantic. The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, the investigation underway on the Minister of Fisheries shows that there were blatant lacks of ethics, and it's not over. A company that didn't meet the criteria was allocated a lucrative quota by the Minister of Fisheries, and the contract was awarded to the brother of a Liberal MP, another Liberal member, and then there's the Minister's family. When, Mr. Speaker, did the Prime Minister learn that Liberal partisans and the Minister's family would benefit from this lucrative contract? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, our decision to include the participation of Indigenous peoples is part of our work to renew relations with Indigenous peoples. Broadening access to the surf clam fishery is a step towards reconciliation. When the Conservatives undertook a similar process, they chose to exclude Indigenous peoples. The Minister will continue to work with the Commissioner of Ethics and to follow advice. The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, the investigation underway on the Minister of Fisheries shows that with the good old Liberal culture, the more things change, the more they stay the same. There's favoritism for everyone, from the big Liberal family to the uncles, Liberal cousins, Liberal friends, and anything goes in order to please those people. It's a scandal. When did the Prime Minister learn that all Liberal partisans and the Minister's family would benefit from this lucrative contract? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, what Canadians need to understand is that despite the unfounded accusations that are being thrown out from time to time by the Conservatives in this place, we have an ethics commissioner in place who is responsible for ensuring that there is no conflict of interest or lack of interest. What we do on this side of the House is have confidence in and work with the Commissioner. We know that it's an important job, that we need to respect it, despite partisanship, that the petty partisanship we're seeing on the part of the Conservatives on a regular basis.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Well, Mr. Speaker, as the Ethics Commissioner gets into his formal investigation of the Fisheries Minister, he's going to find very clear evidence in the Minister's own handwriting of his interference in the bidding process for a very lucrative clam harvesting license. Mr. Speaker, this is a confected company that didn't meet the bid criteria with close Liberal Party and family connections, that didn't even own a boat and was awarded a very valuable quota by the Minister. Again, will the Prime Minister remove this minister from this tainted file and restart the bid process?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our decision to introduce Indigenous participation is consistent with our commitment to developing a renewed relationship between Canada and Indigenous peoples. Enhancing access to the Arctic surf clam fishery broadens the distribution of benefits from this public resource and is a powerful step towards reconciliation. When the Conservatives went through a very similar process to increase access to this fishery, they chose to exclude Indigenous peoples. As to the matter raised by the member, our member will continue to work with this Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner and follow his...
The honourable member for Thornhill.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the question now is when was the Prime Minister made aware that Liberal partisans and the Minister's family would benefit from this lucrative, rigged contract?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, we have a situation in which the Conservatives are flinging mud, throwing groundless accusations out across the floor of the House of Commons as if it were true. Now, what is reassuring to members in this House, and indeed to all Canadians watching, is that we have a Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner whose job is to get to the facts of the matter, not the partisan spin and the angry attacks. We trust the Ethics Commissioner, work with the Ethics Commissioner, and support him in the important job he does.
The honourable member for Courtenay Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, Vancouver just banned plastic straws and lids. Montreal has banned plastic bags. Tofino, Edmonton, and Saskatoon are close behind. But the Prime Minister thinks he can lead a discussion about ocean plastics at the G7 while doing nothing here at home. Municipalities are filling the leadership void because the Liberals' Ocean Protection Plan still doesn't even mention combating plastic pollution. With World Ocean Day and the G7 only 2 weeks away, is the Prime Minister just looking for another photo op, or will he actually explain his plan to protect Canada's waters from plastic pollution?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the protection of our oceans continues to be a priority for this government. On top of the $1.5 billion Oceans Protection Plan, which will bring world-class protection to our coasts, we're moving forward with this year with a significant amount of leadership on protecting our oceans. From a roundtable on plastics at the World Economic Forum in Switzerland to the leadership was shown as we were at the Commonwealth a few weeks ago, to our leadership at the G7 on moving forward on plastics, to our leadership in co-hosting a meeting in Nairobi, Kenya on our oceans this fall. Canada continues to lead.
The honourable member for Timmins, James Bay.
Now, Mr. Speaker, when I drive the 407 like other Canadians, I expect at least my name and address to be kept private, not shared around with a bunch of dodgy Conservative nomination races. The 407 data scandal is Exhibit A as to why we need to have political parties held accountable and brought under the Privacy Act. If this Prime Minister is pushing through his electoral reform bill, whose privacy protections are about as reliable as a pinky swear from a party operative, I mean, come on. Why is he ignoring the call of the Privacy Commissioner to hold political parties accountable?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it would be easier to believe the high dudgeon from the member opposite if it weren't for the fact that on this side of the House, we are moving forward with open and transparent public financing. We have invited the media in to our financing events. The NDP and the Conservatives still refuse to open up and to publicly announce their fundraising efforts. If the member opposite is so serious about transparency and openness, perhaps he could do like we do and invite the media to his next private fundraiser.
The honourable member for Charlebourg-Haut-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Not only is the Liberal government allowing ISIL combatants to return to Canada, but he's also allowing these murderers to live freely as if nothing had happened. Yesterday, the Minister of Public Safety stated that under our government, no combatants had been arrested upon their return. Either the minister is ill-informed or he lacks the courage to tell the truth. Is the Prime Minister waiting for a tragic incident to occur before taking on his responsibilities and taking them seriously? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Once again, the Conservatives are focusing on division and fear. Our security and police agencies take all potential threats seriously and have many measures many tools available to them when these threats exist. We know that they are doing their job and that they're doing a good job. It's troubling to hear the Conservatives say that they want elected officials to intervene and tell police officers how to do their job. On this side of the House, we will continue to have confidence in the
Député de Charlesbourg, Haute-Saint-Charles.
The Honourable Member for Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, never. Well, in fact, the Prime Minister shows on a daily basis that his government doesn't take Canadian safety seriously. He's reinventing history. He's accusing our government of having cut the funds for the CBSA, but we've proved the contrary. Then he says that under our government, no Islamic combatant had been arrested. And Canadians remember our record on fighting terrorism. It's a matter of conviction and courage, Mr. Speaker. So, could the Prime Minister wake up his minister and get him to understand once and for all that the security of Canadians, the safety of Canadians is our top priority? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives can't deny the fact that during their last mandate as a majority, they cut $400 million from the Border Services Agency. And those are the types of steps that affect our security adversely. We are changing that. We respect the work of our Border Services officers, our police officers. We're doing everything needed to protect Canadians, and the fear-based policy vehicled by the Conservatives is not something that will help keep us safe.
Calgary Nose Hill.
Our government did introduce laws that gave law enforcement officials better tools to keep us safe from terrorists, which this government has weakened. We sent resources to help keep our allies in the combat to help the spread of ISIS. By contrast with this Prime Minister, we didn't pay for poetry lessons for ISIS terrorists or remove Canada from the fight to contain ISIS or vote against a motion to declare genocide against victims of ISIS. So, for the love of all that's holy, will this Prime Minister seek justice for the victims of Abu Huzaifa?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I'm just going to take issue with plenty of what the member opposite said, but one specific where we didn't engage and we withdrew some of our support in the fight against ISIS in the Middle East. On contrary, we are pleased with the extraordinary work that the men and women of the Canadian forces did in northern Iraq in helping with the retaking of Mosul, of the significant impact on the ground that we had. We can be proud of the work the Canadian forces did to degrade and defeat ISIL. We were part of that, despite what the Conservatives say.
The Honourable Member for Rome-Missisquoi. Mr. Speaker, we know that a strong and competitive dairy industry is essential to Canada's prosperity, that it creates good jobs and puts high-quality dairy products on the tables of Canadians. In my riding of Rome-Missisquoi and across Quebec, we have the best dairy producers in the world. So, Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister tell us about recent investments by our government in the Canadian dairy industry? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for Rome-Missisquoi for his question. Thanks to the Dairy Farm Investment Program, our government has funded more than $66 million for dairy producers, $26 million for dairy producers in Quebec. Thanks to the investment funds in the processing of dairy products, we have provided $24 million for dairy processors, including $10 million in Quebec. Our government will continue to invest to protect and defend our dairy producers across the country.
Honourable Member for Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Mr. Speaker, 1 year ago, Omnitrax announced it was closing the port of Churchill, devastating the economies of communities along the rail line. Rather than considering all offers to get this railway up and running, this Prime Minister is picking winners and losers. A potential buyer, which includes Indigenous partners, has announced, "We have halted our negotiations because of interference from the federal government." Why are the Liberals interfering and limiting the options for this line to get running again?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, our government recognizes the importance of the rail line to the people of Churchill and the surrounding area. Our priority remains the safety and well-being of the people impacted by the loss of rail service. We will continue to work closely with the town of Churchill, the province of Manitoba, and others in support of the immediate and long-term interests of the region. No negotiations with any parties will be conducted in public, but if the member opposite really wants to help, she can call up her friend Merv Tweed, former Conservative MP at Omnitrax, and tell him to make the right deal for Canadians and for Churchill.
L'honorable député de Jonquière.
The honourable member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, our dairy producers are once again facing uncertainty and distress. Milk prices have hit historic lows, and producers are struggling. Inaction and carelessness by the Liberal government is the main cause for this difficult situation. Think about dye-filtered milk, breaches in supply management in CETA and the TPP, or the too modest and poorly managed investment program. While we're at it, why not another breach under NAFTA? Is the Liberal government proud of this disastrous record when it comes to dairy producers? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Thanks to our investment fund for dairy producers, our government has provided over $60 million to dairy producers, including $26 million for producers in Quebec. Thanks to the investment in processing, we have provided $24 million for processors, dairy processors, including $10 million in Quebec. Our government is continuing to invest and will continue to defend our producers and supply management across the country.
Oak Ridge's Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, our government listened to Canadians and they want decisive action to protect our environment. Canadians have entrusted us with environmental stewardship for today and tomorrow, and that stewardship must extend to how government departments operate. The Department of National Defence manages the largest infrastructure portfolio in the federal government. As outlined in Strong, Secure and Engaged, we are committed to modern and sustainable infrastructure for our Canadian Armed Forces. Could the Prime Minister please inform this House on how our government is ensuring the greening of Canadian defence infrastructure?
Honourable Prime Minister.
I thank the member for Aurora Oak Ridge's Richmond Hill for her question and for her service as a veteran of our armed forces. We are taking action to combat climate change across the government. The Minister of National Defence recently took part in a building dedication ceremony for the newly constructed Royal Canadian Electrical and Mechanical Engineers School at CFB Borden. This facility was designed to meet the LEED Silver certification standard and incorporates green building concepts to minimize its footprint. It'll provide our forces with state-of-the-art facilities. We believe in green infrastructure and clean technology, including in our new defence policy.
Honourable member for Barrie Innisfil.
Mr. Speaker, Liberals use tax dollars to pay fees for government staff to attend a conference organised by Canada 2020. Canada 2020 and the Liberal Party are so incestuous it's hard to know where one ends and the other begins. Right. 2020's president and co-founder Tom Pitfield is married to former Liberal Party President Anna Gainey. In 2016, Pitfield joined the Prime Minister on that infamous unethical vacation to the Aga Khan's private island. Now, without blaming Stephen Harper, can the Prime Minister explain why taxpayers are paying to send government employees to a Liberal Party conference?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
As we know, Mr. Speaker, decisions to attend conferences are made by the public service, and we support their right to send people to conferences that are good for their development and their professional improvements.
Alors, l'honorable.
The honourable member for Bière-Boucher, les Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, now we know what happens when someone tries to sign an agreement at all costs. They lose on all fronts. The Liberals gave up 2% under supply management in CETA. During a by-election in the Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, the Prime Minister swore that he would protect supply management at all costs. Following the election, though,
He gave up 3.25% of supply management under the TPP. Now, that's twice that agriculture producers in Quebec have been had. Now, under NAFTA, can the Prime Minister ensure us that there won't be a breach like this? Not 3%, not 1%.
Premier Ministre.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to say that the Liberal Party is the one that created our supply management system, and we will continue to defend it. We have signed agreements across the world and protected this system that works well for our producers at the same time. It works well for our country and for our producers. We will continue to defend it. We know it's important to have access to new markets for our products. We are in a globalized trading environment, but we will always protect our supply management system.
I would like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of the Honourable Zach Churchill, Minister of Education and Early Childhood Development, and the Honourable Derek Monbriquet, Minister of Municipal Affairs for the province of Nova Scotia.
The Honourable Member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie is rising on a point of order. Yes, Mr. Speaker, and thank you very much. I believe you will find unanimous consent to adopt the following motion. That the House recognize that more than 750,000 Rohingya refugees fled Myanmar since October 2016 to escape from the ethnic cleansing. And amongst the atrocities being committed, there is sexual violence, killings, fires being set, and these are crimes against humanity. The Burman authorities have not been prosecuting anyone for these crimes, and they must do so. B, that we call on the Government of Canada to implement the recommendations of Bob Rae, the Special Rapporteur, and to publish the UN report on human rights, who have condemned the situation of the Rohingya. They said that this is a classic case of